Alright, here's a fun little drawing from last month, one of the ones I did for Inktober. This is a comfort zone piece, Undead Knights. It's a material that's not really breaking any new ground, but it's fun to draw, so I'm going to leap into this without much planning or forethought. He's wearing an open-faced bassinet with a nose piece that's attached to the chainmail at his chin. And this is not secured at the top, it's just hanging open so that it reveals his spooky skeletal visage. It just seemed more appropriate for the character to kind of show off how freaky and scary he is. And since it's an action pose, it's going to be swinging wild to kind of show off that motion. I've given him a mace because those are very scary. And the armor, the brigandine armor there, has a huge hole that I want to show his ribcage through. This turned out to be a pretty tricky situation. Since brigandine armor has the layers of cloth on top of metal plates, I tried to have the cloth deteriorated, the plates showing, and then the plates torn away to reveal the ribcage. But it turned out to be just a little bit too much detail in one spot for the brush pen to be able to handle very well. At this point, the action pose is looking pretty good, but I erased a chunk of him because I needed to add somebody in the foreground. Having him swing like crazy with a mace is all well and good, but without an adversary, it's kind of pointless. Plus, you need a little context for your characters, because I'm not going to be doing a background. There's something needs to be there for him to be interacting with. If I had thought ahead, I would have made a little more room for this foreground figure. They would have been slightly more equal in size and kind of repositioned on the page, but that's alright. For an afterthought, it turned out pretty well. Alright, we're inking now. The chainmail is always interesting. It has to be reduced to a pattern, basically, a very stylized pattern, because drawing out chainmail as realistically as you can is extremely hard and tedious, and basically a good way to forget about the overall value, which is bad. Alright, here's the hole in the brigandine I mentioned earlier. Started off pretty good, had some folds in the cloth in the brigandine, and the plates beneath, and then the rib cage beneath that. I think the mistake I made was shading those metal plates too much. They look so dark that you can't tell the plates from the rib cage. You can't tell the armor from the hole. More contrast would have made that a little bit better. Moving on to the upraised arm, more chainmail, and then underneath that is rotted, nasty gambeson. Padded armor, basically. I really like the look of that. It turned out pretty well. And I want to push the gross, rotted, undead feeling, so having some dingy gambeson is actually pretty nice. Nice touch for this armor. Some shading lines on the bassinet. Not too reflective, not too shiny. It's a little gross, it's a little dirty. And filling in that chainmail. It's pretty fun. Technically, you really ought to see the arm or leg or whatever that's beneath the chainmail a little bit, because it is full of holes. But that's something that's just really tough to convey, especially with this slightly limited amount of detail with ink. So I'm going to ignore that. We're just going to pretend that that chainmail sleeve is completely opaque. Ooh, yeah, and I really dig the super loosey-goosey sketched arm there. There's almost no structure to it. Very impressionistic. That was good. That was a good choice. Alright, starting to fill in the foreground character here. In general, this dude's just going to be mostly dark value. We don't have to put a whole bunch of detail in there. He's just going to take up some space. The shield does have a little detail, actually. A little bit of contrast. But other than that, this dude's pretty simple. Throwing in some dry brushing strokes there with the brush pen. It's always a good way to fill up an area if you need to. Plus, it gives some lovely texture for no work at all. It's kind of a neat trick. Alright, a little bit of flecks of stuff flying in the air. Kind of give the impression of motion just a little bit. And with the legs, that's it. Drawing done. Cool. Pretty nice. Turned out well. Drawing Undead Knights is always just such a pleasure to do. I do them all the time. They say chivalry is undead. Oh, goodness. Well, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.